Hello, my name is Sonia, and today I'm going to show you how I make a drag and drop scene in Storyline 360. Let's dive right in. Here I've set up my page for the drag and drop. You can use any objects you want as well as any target. In this case, the objects are food and the target is the shopping cart. The first thing I recommend doing is labeling all your objects and the target cart so that they don't get mixed up. What I'd like to see happen is all the correct objects, when they are dragged to the cart, disappear. So to do that, I'm going to click on one of the correct objects and I go into States and I click Edit States and I click New State. In New State, I select Drop Correct, Add. Now when I drag it over and drop it, I would like the eggs to disappear. So to do that, I first click out and then I click back on the object and I press the delete button. And then I click Done. I'm going to do that for all of the objects. To do this, I click on eggs once again, and I'm going to select the Format Painter, and I'm going to double click on the Format Painter so I can select one object after the other without going back to the Format Painter each time. So double click, and I click on steak, so that's another correct answer, asparagus, bacon, salmon, and the avocado here. So these are all correct answers. Now with the steak, I'm going to have to go in here and remove the image on the drop correct one. So I click Edit States and then I click on Drop Correct and then I click out of the object, click back, delete, and then Done. And then I do the same thing again. So rinse and repeat. Okay, and then the salmon and the avocado are already done. Now we have to create a trigger. So I'm going to create a trigger for all the correct objects. So I click on eggs again. I select Create a New Trigger here. And I change state. So if your action doesn't say change state, you're going to have to go in here and find change state. It's right here. Change state of eggs. Set state to drop correct. When the user, so you're going to have to go in here and go to the bottom and click Object Dropped On. So when object dropped on, or when the user drops the object on the target. So the object is the eggs and the target is the shopping cart, which you can see is emphasized in the within the red borders. So there we go. And then I'm going to click OK. So I'm going to copy this now. And I'm going to go into the other correct object, which is the steak. And I'm going to click Paste over here. So it's all set up here. Set state of steak to drop correct when the user drops steak on the target cart. So then once again, same thing. Go around to all the correct objects and paste. Now let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to go to Preview and then preview this slide. So I can select the eggs and they disappear. Okay, there we go. What I'd like to see happen with the incorrect object is when I drag it to the cart, instead of disappearing into the cart, it should bounce back. So to do this, I need to create a motion path. So I select the first incorrect object, cereal. I go to Add Motion Path. I select Basic, Lines. The green dot should the object with the green dot should be moved towards the cart, so to the cart, and then the red dot should be the original where it will go back to. So now if I look over here at the triggers panel, and I'll find here cereal, okay, and it says move cereal along line motion path 1 when the timeline starts on cereal. So I don't want it when the timeline starts, I want it when the object is dropped on the target. So I select when the user drops cereal on, and then I select the target, which is the cart, and there we go. Now I want to have this on all the incorrect objects. I want this applied to all the incorrect objects. So I'm going to go copy over here, and then I click on bread, and I will click paste. So move bread along. Now this is unassigned because I have not created a motion path for bread. So I need to go in and create a motion path for bread. So I do this exact same thing. The green dot is in the cart, and the red dot is back at its destination, or back at its origin. There we go. And so now I have a motion path, so I can select motion path 2. It automatically shows up there. So that's the one I want. So if the participant drags the correct object to the cart, they get a score, they get a point. If they drag the incorrect object, they don't get a point. So to make this happen, I'm going to select the 0 on score, and I'm going to go into insert, and I'm going to insert reference. So first I need to add or create a new variable. So I click the plus button. Variable 1 is going to be a number, and it's going to be a value of 0. Click OK. Okay. So now you can see that it's highlighted here. So it is the variable 1 is now part of this 0. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to select the correct object here, which is bacon, and I'm going to add a variable. So I'm going to have to add a new trigger. Create a new trigger. Click on this adjust variable. So if you don't have that selected already, you're going to have to look for it. It's right here, adjust variable. And then you're going to have add value 1 to variable 1 when the user drops object on the target. So the object is bacon and the target is the cart again. And we click OK. So now I want that applied to all of the other correct objects. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to avocado, and then I'm going to paste. Okay, and then I'm going to also go to asparagus, paste. Okay, so all your correct objects. Okay, so once that's done, we're going to test this out and see if it works. So I'm going to preview this. Great, so score increases by 1. There we go. Now I'm going to create a layer. It's going to be a layer for correct and a layer for incorrect. So I click here, new layer in the slide layers section, and I type in correct. And then I create a second layer, and this one is going to be incorrect. Okay, there we go. So I click back on correct, and I would like to insert a star. So a star should appear if the person dragged the correct object to the cart. So there's different ways you could do this. You can add a shape, or you can go into icons or illustrations. I'm going to choose a shape, and this is the shape right here. There we go. And so now I'm going to add in a color. So I'd like it to be yellow, and I'm going to also modify it using gradients. So there we are, and I'm going to also take out the outline, no outline. Okay, and so that's the star there, and then for incorrect, I'm going to have an X appear if they drag the incorrect object. So for this, I'm going to add, so once again, I'll go to shapes, and I'm going to choose this X here. There we are. And it's going to be red. And I don't want any outline, but to make it consistent, I can also include a gradient. So I'm going to choose this gradient. Okay, so now that the layers are complete, I'm going to add a trigger. So I click Triggers, and I'm going to show layer correct when the user drops the object on the target, asparagus. The object is asparagus and the target is the cart. Okay. So now I'm going to want to copy this to the other correct items. So avocado was correct. I click on avocado, I press paste. There we go. Show layer correct when the user drops avocado on the target. And here I'm going to now do bacon, paste, okay. Eggs, paste, so on and so forth. Okay, great. And now for the incorrect. So show layer, and that's incorrect when the user drops the object on the target. So now we're talking about bread. Okay, and the target once again is the cart. Great. So now I go to bread. I'm going to copy this and I paste it on cereal, just so. So show layer incorrect when the user drops cereal on the target cart. And go do the same thing for corn, rice, okay, there we go. Good. So now let's see what happens. I'm going to go into preview. Okay, so I'm going to drag rice. There the X pops up. Incorrect. Okay, but the one thing you may notice is that the X does not disappear. So we want the X to disappear. We don't want it to stay there. So what we're going to need to do is I'm going to go into the layer correct. First, I'm going to adjust the timeline. to 1.5 seconds so that the star would just appear for that amount of time. Then I need to create a trigger. So jump to slide, this slide, when the timeline ends. So you're going to need to find that. It's at the bottom. When the timeline ends on this layer. And then click OK. Then you're going to copy it and you're going to paste it. There you go. Okay, so you paste it into incorrect, and it says jump to slide this slide when the timeline ends on this layer. And we need to adjust the timeline as well. So make it 1.5 seconds. All right, so now let's preview this and see what happens. So, great, and it goes away. And then the star is there for just 1.5 seconds. So for the correct and incorrect layers, you can always jazz things up a little and add an animation. So for the star, I'm going to go into animation and I'm going to select spin and grow. For the incorrect, I'll do the same thing. I will, in fact, because I want to do the same thing, I will click Animation Painter, and then I can go into Incorrect and click on it. There you go. So they are both set up now, and we can take a look at how that will look in preview. If you like this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Thank you.